Thank you very much. So let's look at our team report. And let's see. So our objectives are first, increase conversion from our team's video and community building efforts. And number two is build an easy access information hub for our teams. Number three is successful launch and operation of the AdFaith app in the United States. So Sydney, Caitlin, and I already discussed. We'll just take one and overview. So I'll take the first one. Increase conversion from our team's video and community building efforts. So it was aligned to our mission to bring people everlasting happiness that only living the restored gospel of Jesus Christ can deliver. And then the key result we had was 30% increase in our this quarter's 2021 MTC of all of our teams compared to 2020 the last quarter's MTC. And for some of our teams, KPI is something that they're like they are familiar with it by now. They're not necessarily key result, but they're indicator that if our team initiatives are actually affecting our key result or influencing key result. So KPI, the first one is 30% average increase in average view duration and watch time. Well, and then basically from our channel, YouTube channels. And the way we did was kind of look at this is where I'll probably add a screenshot of what I'm doing is go to your YouTube channel, go to your average view duration, choose the custom time for the last quarter, and then this year so far. We're doing it a little early. We're not doing it at the end of the March or last week of the March because we wanted to send this out ahead of other teams' team meeting. And then we basically calculate them into seconds. So if it says 1 minute, 1 column, 30 seconds there, then that's basically 90 seconds. Then we just did this formula to get the increased percentage. And then once we got this increase or decrease percentage between the last quarter and this quarter, we averaged them all up to come up with this final result. So that's what we did. But anyway, and then another KPI indicator is just we wanted to get all the number of the first quarter interaction from our teams. So because now we have a clearer guideline, what constitute interaction and what constitute MTC, we now have a better kind of a starting point. So in quarter 2, quarter 3, and go on, we can compare that into our quarter 1. So this is our first time when it comes to interactions to build the database to compare from. Okay, so I'm just gonna look at our team initiative briefly. So I'm just gonna read mine. I'm not gonna read all of it, but just generally speaking, in January, I tried to send all teams updated OKR guidelines. I have you guys review, and this is where we look at their team initiative and gave feedback with a different font color. So the teams will be looking at the document right now, and it is also linked right here, although they cannot see it right now. Well, they'll see it right now, I guess. The February, at least on my end, I tried to focus on make sure that in order to achieve that, because I'm also over VPM, video production newsletter, make sure that they all have a good equipment, proper basic equipment, update the training. We also introduced the Faith and Beliefs top 10 localizing project, and also talked a little bit about customer journey in our last department call. Now in March, it's halfway done, but we are going to send this kind of OKR review video to all of the teams. And then we'll be also sending out more information about customer journey, perhaps more like a strategic approach, what we are trying to do, what is our strategic direction to all of our team members. And then also I have new Premier training and audio training as well. So that's where I have been working on this month or this quarter for this objective. Why don't you guys chime in a little bit, Sydney and Caitlin?
Yeah, so my objectives or my initiatives, were to kind of keep working with my teams as they built their YouTube series. Some of them were, quite beginnings of that. So we were doing a lot of feedback and a lot of back and forth on these videos, and also just on kind of refining their channels and playlists. We were preparing for the Faith and Belief series. This is all in January that I'm referencing. And then I've been helping build the India team YouTube, which has been like a new thing for us. So that's been a lot of fun working with them and get their YouTube channel going. So, and then in February, I just continued to help them. Some of the teams we were talking about YouTube SEO, and a lot of the teams were starting with their Faith and Belief series. At least they started filming, so we were doing feedback with that. And then in February, I also worked on that newsletter to send out that had some content ideas for promoting the YouTube channel and for building that community around YouTube. So that was a big focus in February. And then in March, I've just continued to help them refine the Faith and Belief series and, give recommendations for kind of building that, continuing to build that community. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on with my teams.
Yeah, and for me, so I've been helping my teams come up with interesting topics for non-members, especially because that's who we're kind of trying to help get interested in these series. We know that church members are already kind of more interested in watching stuff like this, so trying to come up with content for non-members. And then also in my newsletter in January, I showed how to create a bit.ly link for videos, which is really helpful. And then also I gave some ideas for content calendars so that teams can kind of organize their video schedules a little better. And then I just continued to work with my teams, especially on starting the Faith and Belief series and just ideas for that, for maybe their intro or, giving feedback on the first videos that they sent. So that's been going really well. And then for this month, I'm continuing to give feedback, but then also helping the teams focus on including good call to actions, whether that's in the video or in the descriptions, and especially using those bit.ly links and just knowing where to have all of these things so that people not only watch the videos, but also know how to interact with our teams and either ask questions or just learn more.
Thank you. And I think one thing we want to remind our teams who are watching this is that obviously Sydney, Caitlin, and I do a lot more than this, right? Just like you guys do a lot more of this, but see that initiatives are basically how we're going to achieve our objective and how we're focusing on those. So, like some of them can be more specific, some of them can be a little bit more, broad, but just keep in mind that this is not necessarily like you just write down all your tasks, but basically out of all the tasks, in order to achieve the objective, what have we focused on? Let's talk about a little bit of any challenges or new things we've learned, and let's talk about that briefly. So I'll start out, and just one thing I wanted to notice is that I had a chance to talk to some of our team members that are not team leaders. I just wanted to catch up on them because I've been working with them maybe 5 years, but we haven't talked last 2 years or something. As I'm more communicating with the team leaders, but also at the same time, Sydney and Caitlin jumped in and take care of these teams. So to ease up the burden, and then we can just support better. But when I was talking to the team members, I felt at least a couple team members still weren't sure what is really. They know we're focusing on something more like, okay, this is more of we're focusing more on actual conversion and stuff. But in terms of, I remember talking to one of my team members, and he was saying that, well, I understand videos are important, that's the focus, but there are other important things too, like social media and stuff. So sometimes this will work and sometimes that will work, which is a great point. But at the same time, I was a little worried that maybe some teams will think, especially people who are working at the website or social media, will just think this OKR, especially this objective one, focusing on YouTube channel and stuff, as do we not really matter as much? But the whole idea is that as we introduce the customer journey, that we just need something to sell in order to bring people into our store. And right now, it looks like the video is the way to go. Of course, we want them to watch the videos, but especially read the articles to really get converted. Like one of our teams recently is turning articles into podcast even. Like there are many ways. And of course, we want those users who watch the videos, who likes our videos, to join our social media community instead. So this has to be approached as a holistic approach. And I thought maybe in our next quarter, we can focus maybe on getting out, sending out something that all team members can see and understand, so we don't have to give that burden to the team leaders that, okay, we'll explain something at department call. Now it's your turn to explain to everything we said. Like that's not necessarily fair. And also perhaps each of us department managers can have more individual calls with all of our team members, maybe once a 6 months or even once a quarter. But those are some of the thoughts I had. Did you, at least for this objective, is there any other case studies or thought you guys might have had?
I really like what you said about just kind of focusing. I mean, the YouTube series and everything, that is the product we're giving, but also there's so much that encompasses. So like we kind of talked about, in the next quarter, we'll continue to help our teams develop that customer journey and kind of get all of the aspects that go into this. There's that huge, there's the community side of it. There's the learning and the articles and everything. So I just like that you brought up that point. So
yeah, and I think that the teams that have had everyone be involved in the video series, even people who typically do social media or write or translate or things like that, once everyone gets involved, we can realize that everyone plays an important role. Like even if your role is social media, you can promote the YouTube series, you can look for what's popular on social media to help give ideas for maybe clips that we can use in the videos and things like that. So just realizing that even if video isn't your main role, that there's still a really important part that everyone can play, and just seeing how all of the teams have progressed and evolved since doing that has been really cool to see.
I'm going to build on what you said, Sydney, as well as Caitlin, that eventually, like right now, we are giving the objective. Most of our team objective for all of our teams are right now just build or increase their YouTube channel. And the reason is again, kind of go along with what I was originally saying. We need something to sell first to bring people in if we don't really have much. And the articles have a limitation at the moment to grab people. So either social media, video, but the whole point is, in order to achieve our objective, which is increased conversion, and it's not just about the baptism, but people actually living the gospel, staying in the path, living the covenants. So eventually when team members see that their involvement, if we use the customer journey analogy, that involvement, how to help our store thrive and work well, then it goes beyond even the video series, like how they see their involvement of this just whole customer structure journey, I must say, or store working. Then yeah, that holistic approach is what we want them to do, rather than just like, oh, I'm just gonna get this done. Okay, just send me the articles I need to share here. I've done my part. Which is fine, or I'll just translate this, which certain cases maybe that's the case, but most cases we want that to be more expanded. So we'll probably send something out. But like we talked about this maybe multiple times before, that if we just tell the teams that, okay, go figure out the best way to increase conversion, that's then for some teams maybe they can pull it. Maybe some teams just figure out like, oh, for us, just one page landing page with a bunch of advertising worked the best. YouTube series didn't work for us. Or for us, Instagram all the way, it worked for us. We want them to figure that out, but to do that, we want to equip them with basic strategy and stuff. That's why, we introduced OKR, and now we're introducing customer journey. So we want to take the step by step. So building the YouTube channel first was more of like a test run and getting them used to it. So maybe in the next quarter, our objective should change. The suggestion we'll make to the team is not just building up the YouTube channel, but get more familiar with customer journey, or find their own business model, or at least identify customer touch points in that journey. But anyway, it's time to move on. But let me briefly show the result. So key result, 30% increase. So right now, if I look at the result that Caitlin and Sydney all came up, in 2020 Q4 MTC, we had a 57 total. And 2021 Q1 MTC, we have a 78. So that's about 37-point increase. So we definitely reached that key result, which was pretty nice. The most dramatic increase or highest increase was one of our teams. They had a 3 MTC and entries in Q4 2020, but 17 in this year so far in first quarter 2021. Now, if we look at the KPI, the average increase in average duration, I didn't do watch time this time. I just did the average duration. Overall, we had an 8% increase. So we didn't, necessarily reach that, but also we have to put in consideration that every team is very different. For example, one of our teams had a 57% increase in their average view duration. It was like, I can't remember, it was one of the Caitlin's team. I think it was almost like minute and a half went to like 3 minutes or something. And we had the biggest decrease was about 53% decrease from the last quarter to this quarter. But so all that average together is about 8% increase. But we believe that as we keep building this logistics and videos, faith and belief series and casual series as well, then the average view duration, the KPI will continue to increase. And lastly, the final interaction, this so far in our 2021 quarter is, I think it's 57. So also this is how we're starting. So that's where we are. Before we move on to the next objective, one thing we want to inform or notify our team members watching this video is that there is I'm sharing my screen, not on this video, but you will see in the edited version, but you're looking at the evaluation. This is where team leader, we're expecting you to just fill out overall evaluation of a brief evaluation of the Q1 for your objective. Okay. And just you watched Sydney and Caitlin and I been just talking, we can just put them in the summary, and I will do that by the time you're watching this video.
Objective 2. So we had our goal is to build an easy access information hub for our teams. That is pretty important just as we go forward, especially with developing with our customer journey and more strategy and everything. It's super important that our teams have all the resources that they need in one place. So we came up with this so that we could have that easy access place instead of just having to comb through emails. So our key result with this one was actually the same as the first objective. But one KPI that we had was a 70% training completion rate for Q1. I think one thing when we set this KPI, we weren't quite sure how to measure this, nor did we really follow up. I guess if we had followed up with everybody, if they did, complete trainings in Q1, we probably would have been able to have that number. But I think that's something we could improve next time if we set a goal like this. How can we measure this? How do we know that people increased in 70% of training? So that's just one thing to kind of think about. And then, with this one, kind of some of the challenges we had is we've been so busy working on Add Faith and with our YouTube channels for our teams that this particular objective, we've been spending time on it, but there's still a lot we can do. So because it's super important, as we kind of talked about. I've talked to some of my team members and they've asked me where this training was or where to find this, so it's super important that we do get this done. So basically, it's personally for me to prepare for this, I just wanted to make sure that all of my newsletters are accounted for, because I just want there to be a place for all of all of the community managers to access that. And then, as I've kind of just been working on, when I have the chance, working on our our new folder that we created to have that stuff in there. And I've started moving those things. I took some of your newsletters too that were in the form of emails, and I put them into documents. And then Sydney, you and I were talking about today how you built kind of a list. We're starting to build like documents, sheet. An FAQ sheet. That's what it's called. Thank you. Yeah. So that we can get that done. But yeah, do you have any comments on kind of what you've been working on with this or how that's been for you?
Yeah, I think for me, this year was the first time sending out CM newsletters. So for me, part of my goal was just making sure that those were useful to the teams and starting off well. So making sure that not only the information was useful, but that I was also gathering feedback from the teams from how to improve and kind of what it is that they're looking for to learn and what they really need. And then yeah, so based on that, I took a lot of that feedback from the first newsletter to help me with the second one and just making sure that I'm responding, because what's been great is a lot of the team members have been asking me questions and wanting to get more information. So just making sure that I get back to them with that and helping them find this information easier. And so because of that, I decided to create an FAQ page for content managers. And so it just kind of has general places and links where you can go if you have questions. If you have questions about the basics of WordPress, here's a link, because that's something that a lot of teams have asked for, is a WordPress training. And I'm working on it, but it's kind of a bit of a challenge just because that's a more extensive training. And so for now, I made a link to kind of a basic document or a basic article that they can go look at if they have more general questions until we're able to come out with that training. So just kind of knowing what the needs of the teams are and then being able to work towards that.
Thank you. And then, yeah, if I look at some of my initiatives here, because to those who are watching this video, because we've been using acronym, but CM obviously is content management, and Sydney is in charge of content management, website SEO overall for content managers and management, anybody that belongs to that team, content team, we'll call it for each team. And Caitlin is with social media or community management. So CMM, that's what we call it. So it's not confusing with CM, but Caitlin is over, community managers and their team. So community team, we'll call them. And I'm with the video production, video team for each team. If I look at my initiative, I did get some good feedback. Stop sending freaking long emails. So I've been working on, maybe sometimes I can't find a way to not send a long email. So I just put summary version of it, or I even thought about, it's just training takes time. I just realize more and more. Or if we just send a bunch of them out and not useful, or if teams don't find that helpful, then it's waste of their time and we might lose their trust that they will not watch our training as we more send out. My biggest question is, it's great to hear from Sydney and Caitlin as well. People are giving feedback, but I feel like there are some teams who are still not taking full advantage of these trainings or don't want to spend on. Because, for example, if I send something like VPN newsletter and ask them something, it takes sometimes like a month, or I never hear back on this unless I follow up. And part of it is because maybe it's too much for them. Like, oh my gosh, well, I'm busy with this and this and this, and you're sending me training materials right now. So, there needs to be some balance there too. And I think FAQ is great. If I look at my February, the initiative, for example, project Faith and Beliefs, like I've sent like 6 replies because things keep coming up. But then for people who to go through all those emails might be time consuming. So I put them all into Word document, but with images and all that, that's like 20 pages long, I realized later. And if you're the first time watching all this, it's overwhelming. So, I think quick link at the top, anchor link, can be helpful, just following you guys' example. But at the same time, on the March, I'm trying to come up with a better plan for like, how much do we need to follow with our training? Like, do you guys think, like, do we need to make it mandatory? if we do make it mandatory, we have to be really confident that what we're giving them is absolutely need for them and will be helpful to them. Some of them might be already over it though. Like in terms of like how we follow up or ensure that they're taking training on time, there are many other aspects to think about: individual skill differences, time constraint, subject topic, like Sydney talked about. WordPress is extensive training. I guess then we just have to only show the part that matters to them. Out of all this WordPress training, this is how you now upload an article and stuff. The same goes with SEO. We've been trying to buy some courses and send it to them, and I think half of them just kind of felt negative about it because like this too much. Any thought on this?
Yeah, I think that's a good point that, we have some team members who work more than others and have different skill levels. And so sometimes it is kind of hard to measure because maybe one person could get the training done in a week, but for another person, that might be a month-long thing. And so maybe something we could do is with like the individual, I don't know if this would be too much, but maybe with the individual team members, we could have them set a deadline for themselves. It's not us setting a deadline, but it's more them knowing their schedule and their capabilities and them setting a deadline and then us checking up with them, because then that way it's not everyone has the same deadline and some people feel really pressured because that's just like impossible for them, but more they can kind of create it based on, their availability and their skill level.
So I think this objective too is something we all agreed on ahead that we'll probably move into the next quarter and keep building on it. We will need to come up with a new key result. We will need to talk about some new KPIs. We can, and I don't think we'll include that discussion in this video yet. But yeah, let's do that. And just like, if we build on this, right, if somebody reaches out and if it's actually in the training, rather than just telling them like, oh, it's in the VPM newsletter or something, like if we already have a link and structure, then we just send them the link, it's right here. And they can just go that right there straight without having to search through their email. So I think that's great. All right, let's move on to the objectives 3. Go ahead, Sydney.
Okay, so our third objective was to have the successful launch and operation of the AdFaith app in the United States. So we are really close. We're not quite there yet, but we have been working on this for so long and we really are so close. We're hoping to be able to submit it to the Google and the App Store and everything by the end of the month. And then from there, it hopefully shouldn't be too long, but we're not exactly sure of the timeline. So we have been putting so much effort into the app, and I feel like we've learned a lot through this process. I know that we've definitely learned a lot about project management, and that there's so much more that goes into making an app than I think any of us realized. And I feel like it's been a really good learning experience for us on how to just, be better at project management. So that way we don't have to go back and keep editing and fixing things.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up like really great points with that. It was probably a bigger challenge for me too. I assume that Hua as well, because he was the one that had to go through and edit all of our feedback every time we gave it and then export it again. But something that, I was doing like pretty much all the same stuff as you, just all the feedback and refining our articles, doing a lot of writing, which we don't normally do that a whole lot. So that was kind of, it was fun, but also difficult, but we were able to write a lot of articles. And one thing that I was thinking about as we've gone throughout this process is just like how different everything looks from even just like 3 months ago, from the design to everything. Like it just helped me like understand there is so much refining that goes into making a project like this until you finally reach what you want it to be, like the product that it's supposed to be. And, sometimes that takes a lot of refining through fire and lots of rounds of feedback, but, and it will completely change. Like your baby will totally change. So that's something that I've noticed, but
it turns out way different than you expected to. Like, I feel like our app looks amazing, but it looks a lot different than I originally thought it would.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally agree on this has given us a great insight on the importance of project management, and we're so excited to share what we found and found some helpful, not too overwhelming training materials on our teams if they are eventually starting a new project on their own as they are trying to figure out this customer journey stuff. I learned that realistic timeline is important. And then I agree with Caitlin that it pushes us to think and write, brainstorming and actually create something out of nothing was great. But planning is really the key, and learned about how to use different product tools to get us going. You're right. If we had and also, is there a better way to incorporate feedback instead of getting feedback again and again and again and again, right? And so we're excited to share this. So we'll wrap this up, but before we wrap this up, I want to just point out two more things. Is that, again, the team leaders or whoever team members watching this, make sure to fill out the evaluation. And so objective 2, build an easy access information hub for our teams. And then objective 3, successful launch and operation of AdFaith App in the United States will happen, continuing next quarter. But objective 3, the app will really launch very soon. And then we'll start talking about the localization process, project management for individual teams that are, can verify or prove to us that it's worth their time. And this is where we can implement a project management cycle there. Last thing, objective 1, increase conversion from our team's video and community building efforts. So I think we kind of went to the same idea that we'll probably update this objective. We accomplished it, we call it good. So we're going to come up with a new objective, but similar to this. And we talked about how customer journey and, kind of just more holistic approach going on. So, all right, here is our time. The next five or 2 or 3 or 5 minutes, let's come up with the new objective 1 for team OKR for the quarter 2. And again, for team leaders, you guys probably will just have one team objective. But as your team grow, as you get more used to it, you probably see the benefit of having at least 2 team objectives eventually. But right now, don't feel pressure that if you just have one. We're happy that with what you're doing, you guys are fantastic. So yeah, some ideas for the next objective.
Yeah, so I know we talked about customer journey, and I know that a lot of the teams have already kind of been chatting a little bit about their customer journey and touch points and things. So maybe something that could be helpful would be like having them really nail down and identify their customer journey and possibly even making like a visual that they can all refer to rather than just having it be like this theoretical thing that they talk about. They can kind of like see it a little better, because I feel like that's really helpful.
That must be part of this, right? I agree, especially if they're coming up with a visual something once we give them some more guidelines. But that would be a great team initiative as a team to work on that team initiative. So when it comes to team objective, I'd like to build on that. Mine comes like basically we're helping them help teams set up a either business model focusing on customer journey, or help them identify and improve all their, not all their, but possible customer journey touch points or something like that comes to my mind. Caitlin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking something very similar. So I guess adding that into an objective, we kind of give it more of an overall kind of general feel. Do we want to give some kind of so for objective 1 that we have currently, it's increased conversion from our team's video and community building efforts. Do we want to say something like the result we want to see by implementing the strategy? Like, do we want to see increased conversion? Do we want to see more building, like community building? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What I want to suggest is that then the objective 1 for the next quarter would say increase conversion still from our teams, basically from our team something focusing on customer journey or something.
Okay.
Increase conversion from, because if we just put objective as like implement customer journey in our team's strategy. If we just do that, then key result will be, well, have you done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not done it. We want to, and the best way we know it's done it is like the increase. So I think MTC increase is still good. So the key result can be like, you know, we can still put from Q1 to Q2. And I think this is when our YouTube series will start kicking in. And you know, because some of them are still doing it. I mean, still building it now, haven't done it yet. So I would say still keeps 30% increase, but from Q2 to Q1, compared to Q1, there's a 30% increase in our MTC. So I would say that as a key result. KPIs, you and I will talk more about this, but objectively, increased conversion from our teams, something focusing on our customer journey implementation. Any help me out here, please.
Increased conversion by implementing customer journey strategy into our teams. Let's see. Increased conversion. Through implementing the customer journey and improving on teams' touch points.
Okay, so that's good. So increased conversion from implementing customer journey in our team's efforts. How about that? Something like that.
Okay.
And then initiative can be go through touch points, make a visual,
Right.
improve like this. So I think that'll be good. And when I do ta-da, then the people who are watching video will just see the final version of it instantly.
Okay.
So ta-da. Anyway, thank you all for watching and thanks for the time. I think we talked about an hour or similar, but appreciate all teams, all you do. And then, this is basically how we reviewed our OKR for this quarter and came up with the next OKR. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.